Have you ever wondered why your journey has been so turbulent, why the winds seem to always blow against you, and the storms never seem to cease? You've prayed, cried out, and even questioned your path. Yet in the silence of those moments, there was always a whisper, a divine assurance, that the trials were not for your destruction, but for your elevation. I am here to tell you something extraordinary. What you've endured wasn't wasted. Those sleepless nights, those battles that no one saw, were shaping you, molding you, and preparing you for something that eyes have not seen and ears have not heard. Stay with me, because what's about to unfold in your life will be nothing short of divine revelation and supernatural provision. When God sets His eyes on someone for greatness, the process isn't always easy to comprehend. There is a divine law in the kingdom that preparation must precede promotion. God never releases His treasures into unprepared hands, because He values His gifts too much to entrust them to those who cannot steward them. What you thought were setbacks were actually setups for what's coming next in your life. The fiery trials, the disappointments, and the seasons of lack were all tools in the hands of the master potter to shape you for the glory that is about to be revealed. Think about Joseph. He had a dream of greatness, a vision that seemed impossible, yet before the palace there was the pit. Before the position there was the prison. It wasn't because God forgot him, it was because God was preparing him. You too have faced seasons that seemed unbearable. Maybe you've questioned your worth. Maybe you've even wondered if God still has a plan for you. But I assure you, every tear you cried was counted. Every pain you endured was purposed. Your trials were never meant to destroy you. They were designed to build resilience, faith, and character. In the kingdom of God, wealth is not just about money. It's about influence, purpose, and responsibility. What God is about to release in your life isn't just for you. It's for His glory and the advancement of His kingdom. The blessings He is preparing to pour out are tied to your willingness to walk in alignment with His will. He doesn't bless randomly, He blesses strategically. He has chosen you because He sees in you the heart of a steward, someone who will not hoard, but will honor Him with what they receive. But let me remind you of this truth: the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. This isn't just a promise, it's a principle. God has been orchestrating a divine transfer. What was held back from you, what seemed unreachable, is being positioned for your hands. Yet this isn't a time to relax. It's a time to remain vigilant. The enemy knows what's coming your way, and he'll do everything to distract you from the path of obedience. But if you stay rooted in His word, if you refuse to waver, nothing can stop what God has already ordained. You survived the pruning season, and now the harvest is here. But let's not forget, harvest requires work. The blessings of God are not passive. They require action, discipline, and alignment. He's not just looking to give you wealth, He's looking to trust you with it. Your trials were the training ground for this moment. The seasons of lack taught you gratitude. The nights of prayer built your spiritual muscles. Now, as you step into this season of abundance, remember that the same God who brought you here must remain at the center of it all. As I speak to you today, I sense a shift in the Spirit. The heavens are open, and God is releasing what was once withheld. The seeds you've sown in tears will now bring forth a harvest of joy. The prayers you've prayed in private will manifest publicly. But this isn't the end. This is the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where your testimony will become the evidence of God's faithfulness to others. You are about to walk in the overflow, not because of your merit, but because of His mercy. When God blesses, He does so in a way that leaves no room for doubt. He ensures that no man can take credit for what He's done. Your story will be one of those undeniable miracles. People will look at you and see the fingerprints of God all over your life. They'll wonder how it happened, and the only explanation will be the favor of the Almighty. But remember, Favor isn't fair. It's not about what you deserve, it's about what God has chosen to bestow. Even as you step into this season of abundance, keep your eyes fixed on the giver, not just the gift. Wealth without purpose is empty. Success without significance is fleeting. God's intention is not just to make you wealthy, but to make you impactful. He wants you to be a beacon of His glory, a testament to His goodness. This is why the trials were necessary. They refined you, humbled you, and prepared you to handle what's coming next. God's timing is impeccable. He doesn't operate on our schedules, but when His moment arrives, it is perfect. Every delay you experienced was not a denial, but a detour meant to strengthen you for the destination. Now that the season has shifted, walk boldly in the confidence that He who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. Don't let fear hold you back. Don't let the opinions of others cause you to doubt. If God has spoken it, it will come to pass. All He requires is your faith and obedience. As you step into this new season, take a moment to reflect on the journey. Remember the lessons, cherish the growth, and honor the process. What God is doing in your life isn't just about you, it's about His kingdom. This is your moment to shine, not for your glory, but for His. The trials are over, the time is now, and the blessings are here. Stay faithful, stay grounded, and watch as God does exceedingly abundantly above all you could ask or imagine. Let me continue. You are entering a season where every closed door will be opened, not by your strength, but by the divine authority of the one who goes before you. The trials you endured, not random. They were orchestrated with purpose. God allowed certain things to break in your life so He could build you back stronger. He permitted people to walk away from you because they could not handle the magnitude of where He was taking you. Everything that seemed like a loss was, in fact, a pruning process to prepare you for the abundance that is now at hand. But do not forget this is a covenant moment. God's promises are always tied to His principles. The wealth, influence, and blessings He is about to release into your life are not just for your personal enjoyment. They are tools for kingdom work. God blesses you so that you can become a blessing. He provides so you can provide. He pours into your life so that you can pour into others. This is why the trials were so intense, because the magnitude of the calling required a deeper level of refinement. Think about David. He was anointed as king long before he ever wore the crown. In the time between his anointing and his appointment, he faced rejection, betrayal, and countless battles. Yet each challenge was a stepping stone to his destiny. In the same way your trials were training you for this moment, God was building in you the heart of a warrior, the mind of a steward, and the faith of a conqueror. What you thought was breaking you was actually making you. You see, the trials were a test of your heart. God was watching how you handled the little before He entrusted you with the much. When you had only enough to get by, did you still give? When the door seemed locked, did you still knock? When the prayers went unanswered, did you still believe? These moments were not about what you had, they were about who you were becoming. And now that you have passed the test, heaven is opening over your life. This is the moment where faith meets fulfillment. The years of sowing and tears will now yield a harvest of joy. But remember, the harvest comes with responsibility. God is not just giving you resources, He is entrusting you with influence. He is positioning you as a light in a world filled with darkness. Your wealth will not just be measured in numbers, but in the lives you impact, the souls you reach, and the legacy you leave. The enemy will try to convince you that you are not ready, that you are not worthy, that you do not deserve this blessing. But let me remind you of the truth. It is not about your worthiness, it is about God's faithfulness. He chose you not because of what you could do, but because of what He can do through you. Do not allow fear or doubt to rob you of what is already yours. Step boldly into this season, knowing that the one who called you is faithful to equip you. Even now, as you prepare to walk in this new season, guard your heart and mind. The distractions will come, the temptations will arise, and the voices of doubt will whisper. But keep your focus on Him. Seek His wisdom in every decision. Trust His guidance in every step. Remember, the same God who brought you through the trials is the same God who will sustain you in the triumph. You are about to witness the manifestation of promises you have carried in your spirit for years. The prayers you whispered in the midnight hour, the dreams you dared to dream, and the visions you held on to despite the odds, they are all coming to pass. But this is not the end. It is the beginning of a new chapter, one where you walk in purpose, power, and divine provision. God's plans are always layered, intricate, and purposeful. Every delay, every closed door, and every setback was part of a divine strategy. It's not just about the blessings you are about to walk into, but the person you become through the journey. You are no longer the same as you were when the trials began. God has been shaping your character, refining your heart, and molding your perspective to align with His kingdom principles. He allowed you to face impossibilities, so you would learn to rely on Him entirely, not on your own strength or understanding. The world measures success by achievement and possessions, but God's kingdom operates on an entirely different system. In the kingdom, wealth is not merely about accumulation, but about purpose. The trials you endured have given you a heart of compassion, a deeper faith, and a vision for the greater good. You now understand that what you receive isn't meant to stop with you. It's a flow, a channel through which God will impact others. That's why your trials were so intense, because the calling on your life is extraordinary. As you step into this season, you must remain anchored in the truth that it is God who gives you the ability to produce wealth. The blessings that are unfolding in your life are a testament to His promises, not your efforts alone. He is the author of your story, and He has orchestrated every detail to align with His perfect will. You will see doors open that no man can shut, and you will walk into opportunities that seem beyond your reach. This is not by chance, but by divine design. You were chosen for this. Yet there is a sobering reality that comes with being chosen. The responsibility attached to your calling is immense. The trials you endured weren't just about preparing you for blessings. They were also about teaching you stewardship. God allowed you to experience seasons of lack so that you would learn how to handle abundance. He allowed rejection to strengthen your resilience. He permitted delays to build your patience. Every experience was a lesson in preparation for this moment. The enemy sees what's coming, and he will try to attack your mind and spirit. He will remind you of your few failures, your shortcomings, and your past. But you must remember that your identity is not rooted in your mistakes, but in God's grace. The trials were never about proving your worth to God. They were about revealing His power in your life. Your testimony isn't one of self-achievement, but of divine intervention. The moments you thought you wouldn't survive were the very moments God was carrying you. This season is one of manifestation. The seeds you planted in faith are breaking through the soil, and the harvest is abundant. But don't forget that with the harvest comes the responsibility to sow again. God's blessings are perpetual, designed to flow through you and into the lives of others. You were chosen not just to receive, but to multiply, to be a steward of what He entrusts to you. The wealth you are about to experience is not merely material. It is spiritual, emotional, and relational. God's abundance touches every area of your life. As you walk into this season, humility will be your greatest strength. The same God who lifted you up can sustain you, but He requires your obedience. Stay rooted in His Word, seek His presence daily, and let His Spirit guide your steps. The blessings are not an end, they are a beginning. They are the resources you will need to fulfill the purpose He has placed within you. Your life is about to be a beacon of hope for those around you, a testament to what happens when you trust God through the trials. People will look at you and wonder how you achieved so much, but they won't see the nights you spent on your knees, the tears you cried, or the battles you fought in silence. What they will see is the evidence of God's hand on your life. But remember, this isn't about impressing others, it's about glorifying Him. Let your story be a reflection of His goodness, not your greatness. The wealth you are stepping into is a tool for kingdom work, a means to expand His influence on earth. The trials you endured have given you a unique perspective. You now understand what it means to have nothing and to rely on God for everything. That perspective is a gift. It will keep you grounded as the blessings flow. You have learned to value the small things, to be grateful in every circumstance, and to trust God in the waiting. Those lessons will serve you well in this next season, because they remind you of the source of your blessings. God's timing is impeccable. He knew exactly when to release the floodgates of heaven over your life. If He had done it earlier, you might not have been ready. If He had done it later, you might have grown weary. But now, in this moment, you are prepared. Your faith has been tested, your heart has been refined, and your vision has been clarified. You now understand that the blessings aren't about comfort, they're about calling. They're not about status, they're about service. As you walk into this season, keep your eyes on Him. The blessings will come with challenges, but they will also come with grace. The same God who brought you through the trials will sustain you in the triumph. He is your source, your provider, and your guide. Trust Him in every step, and you will see His hand move in ways you never imagined. This is your moment, not because of what you've done, but because of who He is. God's faithfulness knows no limits, and as you step into this season, it is crucial to remember that your story is far from ordinary. Every victory, every breakthrough, and every blessing that is about to come your way has been meticulously prepared by His divine hand. You may not understand why certain doors were closed or why some seasons felt unbearably long, but now you can see how every moment was necessary for where you're heading. The trials you thought would break you have instead refined you, shaping you into a vessel that God can trust with greater things. The wealth, influence, and abundance coming into your life are not random. They are the result of a divine covenant, a promise made by a God who cannot lie. But these blessings are not meant to elevate you above others. They are designed to position you as a servant, a steward, and a light in a world that desperately needs hope. God has entrusted you with a unique role, and the resources He is releasing into your life are tools to accomplish His will. He is not only blessing you, but is also making you a blessing to nations. In the same way that Joseph went from the prison to the palace, you are about to see a shift in your circumstances. But remember, even when Joseph reached the height of his success, his heart remained aligned with God's purpose. He understood that his position of influence was not for self-glorification, but for the saving of many lives. You too are being placed in a position where your decisions, actions, and generosity will ripple into eternity. God is using you as a conduit of His grace, and with that comes great responsibility. You have learned to rely on God when you had little, and now He is teaching you to rely on Him when you have much. This is a lesson many overlook, but it is just as important. Wealth and abundance can be distractions if they are not grounded in the heart of worship. The enemy will try to use these blessings to draw you away from your Creator, to convince you that you no longer need Him. But you must remember that everything you have, everything you are, comes from Him. He is the source, and without Him, the blessings lose their meaning. The process you have endured has not only built your character, but has also positioned you to handle what is coming. God never gives us more than we can bear, and that includes blessings. He knows the weight of influence and resources, and He has spent this time preparing you to carry it with grace. You are stepping into a season where favor will surround you, where opportunities will come effortlessly, and where doors will open without you even knocking. But as these blessings pour in, your focus must remain on the one who made it all possible. The world will take notice of what God is doing in your life, and some will question how it happened. They won't understand the hours you spent in prayer, the moments of doubt you overcame, or the faith it took to keep going. They will see the glory, but not the story. Yet this is your opportunity to point them to the author of it all. Let your testimony be a reminder that God is still in the business of miracles, that He is still faithful to those who trust Him, and that He is still the God who turns trials into triumphs. This is not just about financial wealth, it's about the fullness of life that God promises. You will see restoration in relationships, healing in your body, and peace in your mind. The blessings coming your way will touch every area of your life, leaving no stone unturned. But as you experience this overflow, remember that it is not yours to hoard. God is calling you to be a distributor of His blessings, to pour out what He has poured into you, and to be a reflection of His love in a world that is hungry for hope. Your journey is a testament to the power of perseverance and faith. When others gave up, you held on. When circumstances seemed impossible, you believed in the God of possibilities. And now that faith is being rewarded. But this is just the beginning. God's plans for you are far greater than what you can see right now. He is setting you up for generational impact, for a legacy that will outlive you. The wealth and influence coming your way are not just for today, they are seeds for tomorrow, designed to impact lives long after you are gone. As you navigate this new season, remain vigilant. The enemy will try to distract you, to sow seeds of doubt, and to pull you away from your purpose. But you have been equipped with everything you need to stand firm. The same God who brought you through the wilderness will sustain you in the promised land. He will provide wisdom for every decision, peace for every storm, and strength for every challenge. Trust Him, lean on Him, and let Him guide your steps. Your trials were not in vain. They were the groundwork for the testimony you now carry. They were the preparation for the platform God is giving you. Every tear you cried, every prayer you whispered, and every step you took in faith has led you to this moment. And now, as you stand on the brink of this new season, remember that it is all for His glory. Your life is a canvas, and He is the master artist, painting a picture of grace, redemption, and victory. God's plans are never accidental, and His timing is never off. You have been prepared for this moment in ways you cannot fully comprehend. Every obstacle, every season of waiting, and every unexpected detour were shaping you for the greatness you are about to step into. The trials you endured were necessary not to punish you, but to refine you. They purified your motives, deepened your faith, and solidified your reliance on God. What seemed like delay was divine alignment, ensuring that you would be ready for the weight of the blessings that are now coming your way. The kingdom operates differently from the world. While the world focuses on self-promotion and striving, God's kingdom emphasizes surrender and trust. The trials you faced taught you to surrender your plans, your timeline, and even your understanding. You learned to trust God not just when things were clear, but when the path was dark and the future seemed uncertain. That trust has now become your greatest asset. It is what will sustain you as you step into this new chapter. You no longer operate out of fear or anxiety because you've seen God's hand move in the midst of impossible circumstances. The blessings that are about to flow into your life are not random. They are intentional, designed to fulfill the purpose God has placed within you. Every gift, every opportunity, and every resource has a role in advancing His kingdom. God is strategic in His blessings. He doesn't give for the sake of giving. He gives so that His children can walk in their calling, influence others for His glory, and expand His reach on earth. This is not just about wealth in the physical sense, but about spiritual richness that transforms lives. As you step into this season of abundance, remember the lessons of the wilderness. It was there that God taught you to depend on Him for your daily bread. It was there that you learned the value of faith over fear, obedience over convenience, and worship over worry. Those lessons will anchor you now. The wilderness wasn't just a season of struggle, it was a season of preparation. It prepared you for the weight of influence, the responsibility of leadership, and the discipline required to handle abundance with humility. You may feel overwhelmed by what's ahead, but God has already equipped you for this journey. The trials you endured have given you resilience, clarity, and perspective. You now understand that success is not about what you can achieve, but about what you can steward. God is not looking for people who will hoard His blessings, but for those who will distribute them wisely. You've been chosen because you've shown yourself faithful in the little things. And as the Word says, to those who are faithful with little, much will be given. This is not the time to shrink back or to second guess what God is doing. It's time to step forward boldly, knowing that He has gone before you. The opportunities that are coming your way will require courage, wisdom, and discernment. They will stretch you in ways you've never been stretched before, but they will also bring fulfillment, purpose, and joy like you've never known. God's plans for you are far greater than you can imagine. He is not only blessing you, but is using you to be a blessing to others. There will be moments when you are tempted to take credit for what God is doing in your life. The world will applaud your success, admire your achievements, and seek to elevate you. But you must remain humble, always pointing back to the one who made it all possible. The blessings are not about you, they are about Him. Your life is a testimony of His faithfulness, His power, and His grace. Let every success you experience be an opportunity to glorify God and to draw others closer to Him. The trials have taught you the value of patience and perseverance. You now understand that God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with your own. You've seen how He works behind the scenes, orchestrating events in ways that you could never have planned. That understanding will be your strength in this new season. When challenges arise, you can rest in the knowledge that the same God who brought you this far will carry you forward. He is faithful, and He is for you. As you walk in this season of abundance, stay rooted in His Word. The Bible is your guide, your anchor, and your source of wisdom. It is filled with promises that remind you of who you are and whose you are. Let those promises fuel your faith and keep you grounded. The enemy will try to distract you with the allure of worldly success, but you must stay focused on what truly matters. The trials taught you that God is enough, and that truth will sustain you in the days ahead. This new season is not the end of your journey, it is a beginning. It is the start of a chapter where God's promises are fulfilled, His plans are revealed, and His glory is displayed through your life. But with blessings come responsibilities. You are called to be a light, a voice, an example. You are called to use what God has given you to uplift others, to share the gospel, and to expand His kingdom. This is not a burden, it is a privilege. You have been chosen for such a time as this, and God's grace will enable you to fulfill your calling. The weight of this moment is significant, and it is no accident that you find yourself here. God has orchestrated every step, every challenge, and every breakthrough to prepare you for this exact time. His plans for you have always been intentional, and now you are walking into the manifestation of promises that have been spoken over your life long before you could imagine. What may have felt like random circumstances or disconnected events were, in truth, part of a divine design. You are being equipped, shaped, and molded to handle what is now unfolding. In this season, you must guard your heart and your mind with even greater diligence. Success and abundance bring their own set of trials. They test your humility, your priorities, and your allegiance to God. The blessings coming your way will elevate you, but they are not meant to isolate you from the one who made them possible. You must keep your eyes fixed on Him, for He is both the giver and sustainer of every good thing in your life. Never allow the gifts to overshadow the giver. God has chosen you not just to prosper, but to represent Him in this world. You are stepping into a season where your life will be a beacon of hope and inspiration to others. People will look at you and wonder how you overcame, how you rose above the trials, and how you found the strength to keep going. Your testimony will be a living sermon, a testament to the power of faith, perseverance, and divine favor. In sharing your story, you will draw others closer to God, not through your words alone, but through the evidence of His work in your life. As you embrace the abundance that is coming, never forget the lessons of the past. Remember the times when you had nothing but God, when your prayers were filled with desperation and your faith was tested in the fire of adversity. Those moments were not wasted. They were building a foundation of trust and dependence on Him. Now, as you stand on the threshold of extraordinary blessings, that foundation will keep you steady. You will not be swayed by the opinions of others or by the fleeting pleasures of this world, because your roots are deep, anchored in the truth of who God is. You must also be intentional about how you steward the resources and opportunities that God is placing in your hands. These blessings are not just for you. They are meant to flow through you to impact others. God is calling you to be a conduit of His love, grace, and provision. The influence and wealth you are receiving are tools to fulfill a higher purpose. They are meant to build His kingdom, to uplift the brokenhearted, and to meet the needs of those who cannot help themselves. This is your chance to partner with God in His work, to be His hands and feet in a world that desperately needs Him. The journey you have been on has also prepared you to recognize the traps that often come with success. You have learned to discern the voices of those who seek to manipulate, flatter, or distract you. Not everyone who celebrates your victories has your best interests at heart. Some will try to attach themselves to your success, not because they are aligned with your purpose, but because they see an opportunity for personal gain. But God has given you wisdom and discernment. He has taught you to listen to His voice above all others. Trust Him to guide you in your relationships, your decisions, and your plans. This is also a time to deepen your spiritual disciplines. The very practices that sustained you in the wilderness: prayer, worship, fasting, and studying God's Word are the same practices that will sustain you in this new season. Success should never become a substitute for seeking God. The business that often accompanies abundance can easily pull you away from the quiet moments of communion with Him. Guard those moments fiercely, for they are the source of your strength, your peace, and your clarity. It is in those moments that God will reveal His strategies, His wisdom, and His next steps for you. God's timing is perfect, and He never makes a mistake. You may wonder why the blessings didn't come sooner or why the process took so long. But as you reflect on the journey, you will see that every delay was purposeful. God was not withholding blessings from you. He was preparing you for them. He was ensuring that you'll be ready to handle the weight of success with integrity and grace. He was aligning the right people, the right opportunities, and the right circumstances to bring you into His perfect plan. As you move forward, keep your faith active. The blessings you are experiencing are not the end of your journey. They are a stepping stone to even greater things. God's plans for you are always bigger than what you can see or imagine. He is a God of abundance, and He delights in exceeding our expectations. But His blessings are not just about material wealth. They are about the fullness of life that comes from walking in His purpose. He wants to bless you in every area, spiritually, emotionally, relationally, and physically. Trust Him to complete the good work He has begun in you. Your life is a testimony of God's faithfulness, and it is a reminder to others that He is still in the business of miracles. You are proof that God can take what was meant for harm and turn it into something beautiful. You are a living example of His ability to redeem, restore, and elevate. Let your life inspire others to believe, to hope, and to trust in the God who never fails. As you share your story, you will sow seeds of faith in others, seeds that will bear fruit in ways you may never see. The blessings coming your way will require boldness and courage. They will call you to step out of your comfort zone, to take risks, and to trust God in new and deeper ways. But you can move forward with confidence, knowing that He is with you. The same God who carried you through the trials will sustain you in the triumphs. He has not brought you this far to leave you now. His promises are sure, and His plans are perfect. You stand now on the threshold of a season that will redefine everything you've known. The trials, the waiting, and the pain were not wasted. They were the tools God used to prepare you for this moment. You are walking into His divine plan, a plan that not only blesses you, but also allows you to be a blessing to others. The wealth, influence, and opportunities coming your way are not just rewards, they are assignments. They are sacred trusts from God meant to reflect His glory and expand His kingdom. But remember, it's not about what you are gaining, it's about who you are becoming. Through it all, God has been shaping your heart, strengthening your faith, and teaching you to walk humbly before Him. These lessons are your greatest treasure because they will sustain you when the applause fades and the challenges come again. Stay rooted in His Word, faithful in prayer, and intentional in your relationship with Him. Let your life be a beacon of God's faithfulness. Let your story testify to His power to redeem, restore, and elevate. You are stepping into a season where God's promises will be fulfilled and His plans will be revealed. Walk boldly, live purposefully, and let every blessing point back to the one who made it all possible. The trials are over. Now step forward in faith, knowing that God has prepared you for such a time as this.
You were never meant to carry the world on your shoulders. You were never asked by life to grip so tightly, to brace against every tide, to fight the river as it flowed, all in the name of survival. Somewhere along the path, you were taught that control was strength, that struggle was noble, and that surrender meant giving up. But today, I invite you to awaken to a deeper truth, that real strength begins the moment you release your need to control everything. Surrender is not a white flag waving in the wind. It is not weakness clothed in spiritual language. Surrender is the opening of the soul's hands, unclenching from illusion, and finally allowing what already is. It is the courage to stop arguing with reality. It is the power of stepping aside so the universe can step in. Look at nature. The ocean does not resist the moon. The tree does not strive to make the seasons change. The sun does not apologize for shining. They each exist in effortless cooperation with something greater. Not passively, not indifferently, but in a sacred surrender to the divine intelligence that breathes all things into being. What if your life was never about conquering, but about remembering how to align? What if your power wasn't in force, but in flow? We've been conditioned to believe that surrender is synonymous with failure, that letting go means we've lost. But the ego only knows two settings: control or collapse. It cannot comprehend the grace that lives in the middle. The soul, however, knows a different language. It knows that surrender is the portal. It is the hinge that opens the door to peace, to wisdom, to healing. When you stop trying to fix the moment, you begin to feel it. And when you feel it without resistance, you start to be transformed by it. You were not born to suffer beneath the weight of your own expectations. You were born to fly freely in the sky of trust. And yet, so many walk through life, armored in tension, constantly fighting what is. Fighting their past, their parents, their partners, their pain. They wear spiritual armor, trying to protect themselves from life, all while missing it. But freedom does not come from resistance. Freedom comes from meeting life as it is raw, unfiltered, uncertain, but always sacred. Surrender is not the end of your power, it's the beginning of your real power. The power that doesn't dominate, but liberates. The power that doesn't control, but creates. It is the power that arises when you no longer believe you have to be the source of everything. There is a force in this universe that spins the planets, grows the flowers, and whispers to the caterpillar when it's time to become a butterfly. This same force lives in you, but it cannot work through clenched fists and closed hearts. It moves when you move aside. It heals when you release your grip. The irony is you never had control to begin with. The idea that you did was the illusion. You cannot control people. You cannot control time. You cannot control outcomes. You can only control your willingness to surrender into love, into presence, into peace. And peace doesn't come when everything is resolved. Peace comes when you resolve to stop resisting what is. Surrender is not about passive submission. It's about active trust. It's not about giving up. It's about giving over. Giving your worries back to the universe. Giving your attachment to outcomes back to God. Giving your burdens to something larger, wiser, more loving than your fearful mind. The great spiritual teachers all spoke this truth. Jesus said, "Not my will, but thine be done." Lao Tzu taught that yielding overcomes the hard. Rumi whispered, "Try to be like a tree, let the dead leaves drop." These weren't invitations to give up, they were calls to wake up. Wake up from the illusion of control and step into the mystery of grace. The ego hates surrender because it fears death. But the soul loves surrender because it knows that's where rebirth happens. Imagine standing in the middle of a great river, trying to hold back the current. You push, you strain, you shout, and still the river moves on. You exhaust yourself trying to dam the infinite. Until one day you realize, what if the river is not your enemy? What if it's your deliverance? So you let go. And in that sacred release, you are carried not away from yourself, but back home to yourself, to the you that is already whole, to the you that has always been enough, to the you that never needed to force what was already unfolding. Surrender is how the wound becomes the womb. It's how endings become openings. It's how breakdown becomes breakthrough. It is not an act of collapse, but of cooperation with what is holy. When you stop clinging to your pain can begin to heal. When you stop needing people to be different, you start to see them through the eyes of compassion. When you stop demanding that life match your script, you begin to read the script. Life has been lovingly handing you all along. To surrender is to see with new eyes. You begin to realize that the things you thought were problems were really invitations, that the detours were actually directions, that the closed doors were actually protection. Surrender gives you the clarity to see that life has always been happening for you, not to you. This doesn't mean you abandon your dreams. It means you stop worshiping your preferences. You stop believing that your happiness depends on the outcome. You start dancing with life rather than dragging it behind you. The surrendered soul still dreams, but they let go of how it must happen. They still desire, but they trust in divine timing. They still act, but without the desperation of the ego's agenda. They live in harmony, not in fear. And here is the paradox of surrender. The more you let go, the more you receive. The more you release control, the more peace flows in. The more you stop striving, the more grace arrives. Because grace is not earned, it is allowed. It is not a reward, it is a river that's always flowing. But you cannot feel its flow while you are clutching to the rocks of resistance. You must let go. And in that letting go, you will not fall, you will float. You are not here to suffer under the illusion of control. You are here to remember the truth, that there's a rhythm to this universe, and your soul already knows the dance. You only need to surrender to the music. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know that love is a better master than fear. Let your heart break open. Let your plans dissolve if they must. Let the healing begin where the holding stops. There is nothing more courageous than a soul who chooses surrender, not because they've given up, but because they've woken up. You cannot force the flower to bloom. You can only create the conditions for blooming and then let it happen in its own divine time. So it is with your joy, your purpose, your healing. You prepare your heart and then you let go. You stop pushing the river and you allow yourself to be carried. You are not the one holding the stars in place, nor do you cause the tides to roll in and out. And yet, isn't it strange how often we try to control the rhythm of life as if the entire universe hinges on our will? But control is a false security. It is the prison we construct when trust feels too vulnerable. And the bars are made of expectations, hard, sharp, unyielding. Every moment we cling to should, must, can't, or never, we're reinforcing a world built not on presence, but on fear. Yet the soul lives on trust. Not a blind, naive trust, but a deep, intuitive knowing that life is intelligent, that the same force that turns an acorn into an oak knows how to turn your pain into wisdom. When you surrender, you are not falling behind. You are catching up with your destiny. You are stepping out of the storm of the mind and into the calm of your being. You are saying, I trust the path, even when I cannot see the next step. That is not weakness, that is power. That is not foolishness, that is faith. Have you ever noticed the most beautiful moments of your life came unplanned? The laughter you didn't expect, the connection that arrived like a gift, the healing that happened not when you tried, but when you stopped trying. The universe has a rhythm, and it does not follow the clock on your wall or the calendar on your phone. It beats in stillness. It speaks in silence. It moves in its own mysterious, divine timing. And surrender is how you sync with it. The ego will always offer you ultimatums, fight or fail, control or collapse. But there is a third way, the way of surrender. It is the way of the Tao, the path of least resistance. It is not passive. It is participatory. You are not abandoning life. You are cooperating with it. You stop saying, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this trying to show me? Because everything that enters your life comes bearing a message, not as punishment, not as cruelty, but as invitation. Every heartbreak is an invitation to open wider. Every delay is an invitation to trust deeper. Every loss is an invitation to love what remains. And when you stop trying to manage the message, you can begin to receive it. Do not underestimate the strength it takes to surrender. It takes courage to stop swimming upstream. It takes boldness to trust what you cannot see, but in that surrender, your energy returns. Your peace returns, and you begin to discover you were never meant to figure it all out. You were meant to remember that you are not alone in this. There is a current to this life, and it knows exactly where you're meant to go. So many people spend their lives chasing outcomes, running, fixing, striving, reaching all in the name of some distant peace that always seems just beyond the next accomplishment. But peace is not something you earn, it is something you allow. It is not a goal. It is the natural state that arises when you no longer resist this moment. You stop seeking, you start seeing, you stop controlling, you start receiving, you stop forcing, you start flowing, and you realize that surrender isn't something you do once, it's something you practice every day. Every morning you rise and say, I release what I cannot control. I trust what I cannot see. I allow what wants to come through me. That is not passivity. That is the most powerful declaration of alignment you can make. You don't need to bend life to your will. You only need to align your will with life. This shift from control to cooperation is where everything begins to change. Not necessarily on the outside, but on the inside. The battles in your mind begin to quiet. The arguments you keep having with reality start to dissolve. The tension that sits behind your eyes, in your neck, in your chest begins to soften. And in that softness, you begin to remember who you really are. Not the stressed mind, not the desperate planner, not the hardened identity. You are the spacious awareness beneath all that. You are the stillness that watches it all come and go. You are the open sky, not the weather passing through it. And surrender is how the sky remembers itself. When you stop identifying with the storm no longer defines you. When you stop believing every fearful thought, those thoughts lose their grip. When you stop resisting the waves, you begin to surf. And isn't that the art of life? Not drowning in the waves, not stopping the waves, but learning to surf the divine ocean of change with grace, humor, and trust. The ego fears change. The soul knows that change is the only way truth reveals itself. So stop bracing for impact, start leaning into flow. If your plans are falling apart, it's because something better is coming together. If your path is unclear, it's because you're being invited to trust. If everything you once clung to is slipping away, it's because you're being asked to hold something higher, something eternal, something unshakable. And what is more unshakable than a soul at peace? That kind of peace cannot be faked. It cannot be found in possessions and status and achievements. It only arrives when you finally stop trying to manipulate your way into a perfect life and instead welcome the perfectly imperfect life you already have. Because that life, messy, raw, sacred, and unfolding, is the only place where grace can meet you. The moment you stop needing things to change in order to be okay, you've entered the realm of true power. The moment you release your grip on how things should be, you become available for how beautifully they can be. The moment you surrender, you are no longer living in resistance. You are living in resonance. That is the difference between effort and ease, between anxiety and awareness, between exhaustion and embodiment. This is not about sitting still and doing nothing. This is about sitting still and doing the inner work of releasing your attachment to control. Then and only then do you rise to act from clarity, not fear. From love, not lack. From wisdom, not worry. You move not because you're afraid to fall behind, but because your soul is moved to act. This is the paradox of surrender. It does not stop your motion. It sanctifies it. You begin to live from inspiration rather than desperation. You become a vessel rather than a victim. You flow with divine energy rather than fighting it. And that is what it means to live as a spiritual being, having a human experience. You remember that you are not the doer of all things. You are the expression of something greater. You are the melody, not the musician. The light, not the lamp. Surrender is the art of remembering. I don't have to carry this alone. The mind will scream, but what if it doesn't work out? And the heart, in its soft strength, will whisper back, what if it works out better than I imagined? Surrender is learning to trust the whisper more than the scream. It is choosing the still voice within over the noisy voice without. It is the sacred shift from fear to faith, from demanding life conform to your timeline to allowing life to unfold in divine time. Surrender is not the end of desire. It is the purification of it. It is not that you no longer wish, dream, or move, but that you do so without clutching. You do so with open hands and a soft gaze. You plant seeds not because you're desperate for harvest, but because you're honoring the natural rhythm of creation. You water, you wait, you trust, and even if nothing sprouts in the way you expected, you trust that the earth is still working, that something is shifting below the surface. That growth doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it's a quiet stretch in the dark, a subtle rearrangement of roots, an invisible awakening. The ego cannot comprehend this kind of subtle power, but the soul was made for it. The soul is not impatient. The soul knows that real transformation often happens in the spaces between, in the pauses, in the surrender. When you stop doing, pushing, demanding, and instead fall into being, that's where the alchemy begins. Do you remember what it felt like to rest without guilt? To trust without proof? To breathe without bracing? Surrender is the return to that original state, the one you knew as a child, before the world taught you fear, control, and conditional worth. It is the sacred coming home to the you that is not tangled in outcomes. The you that knows you are loved, not because of what you do, but because of who you are, who you've always been. Not the performer, not the fixer, not the one holding all the pieces together, but the soul, the still point, the light behind the thoughts. And in that remembering, healing becomes possible. Not because you fought your way there, but because you stopped blocking the healing that was trying to reach you. Everything you're looking for already wants to reach you, but it cannot pass through the gates of fear. You must unlock the door with surrender. Surrender your timeline. Surrender your need for validation. Surrender your tight grip on what healing should look like. And instead, listen, let the silence teach you. Let the grief soften you. Let the stillness rebuild you. There is a wisdom that arrives only in the absence of effort, a kind of divine intelligence that you do not create but commune with. It cannot be summoned. It can only be received. And surrender is the posture of receiving. You bow inward, not in defeat, but in reverence. You say, I don't know how this will unfold, but I trust that I am being led. You say, I release my story of suffering, and I welcome the miracle in its place. You say, I am not afraid to let go, because what is truly mine will never require force to remain. That is the voice of the awakened one. That is the language of surrender. It is in this surrender that you become available to the present, because only in this moment, not the one you're imagining, not the one you're trying to fix, but this one is where love lives, is where healing breathes, is where miracles wait patiently for you to finally notice them. We miss the sacred so often, not because it isn't there, but because we are too busy controlling what's next to feel what's here. You were not designed to bear the burden of every outcome. You were not wired to micromanage the cosmos. That's not your job, that's God's. Your job is to be a willing vessel, a clear conduit, an open window for light, and light can't pass through when the blinds of fear are drawn shut. You must open, you must allow. And when you do, when you surrender your need to know, to control, to manipulate, the universe begins to move through you. Ideas arise, synchronicities unfold, people appear, doors open, but not because you forced it, because you became available to the rhythm of your soul. And what is your soul's rhythm? It is ease, it is grace, it is peace, it is love. It is the quiet knowing that you are not behind, not broken, not late, but right on time, right on path, right where you need to be. There is no place to get to, only a presence to return to. And surrender is that return. The mind may resist this. It has been trained to believe that pressure creates progress, that the tighter you grip, the more you'll control. But pressure is not presence, and gripping only creates more fear. Let go. Let the leaves fall. Let the river run. Let the mystery remain a mystery, and learn to enjoy the ride instead of fearing it. You do not need to have it all figured out. You only need to be aligned with your truth. And your truth is never rooted in fear. It is rooted in love. It is rooted in trust. It is rooted in the wisdom that says, even if I don't know where I'm going, I trust the one who guides me. This is the path of surrender. It is not always easy, but it is always worth it, because it will give you something the world cannot. Peace without proof, joy without condition, freedom without permission. And that, beloved, is power. You see, the art of surrender is not about erasing your will. It's about aligning your will with something higher. It's about learning to listen not just with your ears, but with your whole being. Because when you're fully present, when you're not lost in the anxious rehearsal of tomorrow or the painful replay of yesterday, something miraculous begins to occur. You start to hear the voice of your own soul. And your soul is always guiding you toward peace. But peace doesn't come from getting everything right. Peace is the byproduct of remembering that you were never wrong to begin with, that you've always been loved, that the real you, the one beneath the masks, beneath the fear, beneath the striving, has always been whole. Surrender doesn't make you less. It brings you back to the you that isn't built on conditions. The you that existed before the world told you who you had to be, before you learned to pretend, before you began bargaining for love through perfection, performance, or people-pleasing. Surrender returns you to your essence. And your essence was never separate from God. This is the mystical truth that so many miss in their quest to succeed, to heal, to transform, that you are not some broken thing that needs to be endlessly fixed. You are already divine, already worthy, already connected. The only thing in the way is your resistance to believing it. And that resistance, that constant inner battle, is what surrender seeks to dissolve. It is not a giving up of who you are. It is a letting go of who you are not. You are not your past. You are not your failures. You are not your regrets, your roles, or your wounds. You are not your name. You are not your story. You are the one who is aware of all of those things, yet untouched by any of them. The witness, the presence, the eternal one, behind the ever-changing forms. And when you live from this place, this surrendered awareness, life begins to mirror back to you a kind of grace that you once thought only belonged to saints or sages. You realize you don't need to chase miracles. Your very presence becomes a miracle. Because what is more miraculous than a human being who has laid down their weapons, the weapon of judgment, the weapon of fear, the weapon of shame, and chosen to walk with open hands and an open heart? What is more radiant than a person who trusts life deeply even when it's unclear? This kind of trust is not blind, it is not naive, it is born of intimacy. Intimacy with the self, with spirit, with the patterns that unfold when we stop interfering and start participating. There's a rhythm to grace, and when you surrender, you move with that rhythm, not against it. You speak with less urgency and more clarity. You love with less attachment and more freedom. You live with less fear and more awe. And awe is the natural result of surrender. Because the more you release the illusion of control, the more space there is for wonder, the more room there is for mystery. And the more mystery you allow, the more you begin to recognize that you are not alone in this, that something is moving through you, guiding, shaping, orchestrating. That something does not speak in demands. It speaks in whispers. And you must be still to hear it. Stillness is not inactivity. Stillness is receptivity. It is the spiritual posture of surrender. And in that posture, you don't lose your power, you magnify it. Because true power has nothing to prove. It does not dominate, it does not strive, it does not fear the unknown. True power rests in trust. It walks gently, it acts clearly, it speaks only when needed. And sometimes true power is silent, not because it has nothing to say, but because it knows that presence says more than words ever could. Let yourself be present. Let yourself be emptied. Let yourself become a vessel again. There's a sacred spaciousness that opens when you surrender your agenda and allow life to surprise you. You start to see with new eyes. You begin to experience every moment not as something to be controlled, but as something to be cherished. Even the difficult ones, even the painful ones, because you come to realize that every moment is part of the curriculum. Every detour is part of the path. Every loss is a hidden invitation to return to love. And love, not fear, is the ground of your being. When you surrender, you return to that ground. You let life soften you. You let it stretch you. You let it strip away everything that is not essential, not true, not real, until all that remains is what cannot be lost. And what cannot be lost is what you are. You are not the one drowning. You are the ocean itself. You are not the one falling. You are the sky that holds the fall. You are not the one struggling. You are the silence beneath the struggle, watching, waiting, loving, always. This remembrance is the fruit of surrender. And like all true spiritual fruits, it cannot be rushed. It ripens in its own time. So be patient with your process. Be gentle with your becoming. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are being refined. And surrender is the fire that purifies, not by burning you down, but by burning away what you are not. What's left is gold. What's left is truth. What's left is peace, not because everything makes sense, but because you've made peace with not needing it to. That is power. And it was never about winning. It was about awakening. The awakened heart no longer needs to control the waves. It learns to move with them. It learns to bow to the rhythm of life, not in fear, but in reverence, not in resignation, but in freedom. When you surrender, you do not disappear, you finally appear, because everything you were pretending to be falls away. And the real you, the eternal you, the radiant, divine spark that has never been stained by trauma, shame, or fear, steps forward. That is the power of surrender. You are not diminished by letting go. You are revealed. You are not weakened by yielding. You are liberated. You are not erased. You are remembered. And so breathe now, deeply. Breathe like someone who no longer has to figure it all out. Breathe like someone who belongs to something sacred. Breathe like someone who trusts the tide to carry what needs to be carried and trusts the shore to receive what is meant to remain. Let the armor fall. Let the story unravel. Let the old identity dissolve into silence. You are not here to maintain the facade. You are here to wake up from it. Surrender is not defeat. Surrender is the sacred choice to stop worshiping fear. It is the decision to stop playing small. It is the moment you say, I will no longer grip what wants to go. I will no longer chase what is not mine. I will no longer demand that life rearrange itself for my comfort. I will instead rearrange myself for truth. That is power. The kind of power that doesn't need to shout. The kind of power that doesn't fear change. The kind of power that walks into the unknown with steady eyes and a steady heart because it knows that even in the dark, you are never alone. You have always been carried. Even in the silence, you are being guided. Even in the waiting, you are being reshaped. Even in the loss, you are being prepared for more than you knew. And now you remember. You remember what it means to surrender, not because you're broken, but because you're brave enough to stop pretending you were ever in control. You are no longer afraid to kneel at the altar of this moment. No longer afraid to let the past go where it belongs behind you. No longer afraid to trust what you cannot yet see, because the invisible has always been the most real. Surrender is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your return to presence, to simplicity, to stillness, to love, to the part of you that doesn't need to impress, to win, to prove only to be. And what could be more powerful than that? To be here, to be aware, to be open, to be free. That is the path of surrender. It is the way of the mystic, the way of the healer, the way of the heart. It is the way of those who no longer wish to live by force, but by faith. So walk gently now. You don't need to fix the future, just feel the now. You don't need to explain your journey, just embody your truth. You don't need to hold the whole world together. Just return to the wholeness that is holding you. Right here, right now, everything is unfolding. Everything is being rearranged in your favor. And your only task is this: to let go of what was never yours and trust what has always been. The love, the presence, the breath, the peace, that is the gift. That is the offering. That is your power. Surrender to it and become it.